guys, and welcome back to Betwixt the Books. Today we are going to be talking about book number 8 in the Dark Olympus series, which is Sweet Obsession. We're following Icarus and Poseidon this time. If you didn't know, we cumulatively have reviewed almost every single book in the series. Gretchen by herself reviewed the first one, and then together we have reviewed every subsequent book in the series. This is, again, by being book number 8, probably going to spoil things. No, definitely going to spoil things from the previous books. Not even probably, definitely. So if you haven't read up to this point, go back to wherever you've read and watch those videos. I'll link up above to them. But there's no way that we're getting around talking about some of the things in this book without accidentally spoiling, not accidentally, on purpose, definitely spoiling stuff that happened previously. So it comes with the territory of talking about a book in a series. We've talked about this. This is one of those series where you do actually have to read these books in order. It isn't a companion series where you can just pick up wherever you want to. You do have to read these in order. There is an overarching plot that is important. So, yeah, if you haven't done that already, go back, read the other books, then come back to us, and we'll talk a bit more about this one together. We will do a spoiler-free overall review like we normally do here, and I don't think that we're going to spoil the plot of this particular book, so if you're caught up with the series, you should be okay with this review.
That's because there is no plot, guys.
Well, there we go. A little spoiler for the rest of the video. Yeah, so here we are. I'm gonna let Gretchen do an overview of the plot because she does that better than I do, and then we'll talk about what we thought about the book.
So the plot, such as it is, again, this is where it's like directly related to the end of the last book. So again, this is your last chance to exit before we start to talk about the end of book 7. So at the end of that book, Ariadne, the Minotaur, there's Minos and the Minotaur, and I hate it. And Icarus are all trying to escape Minos, who has been basically the big bad of this. Most of the series is in the last couple of books that it's been revealed that he's actually not the biggest bad. He was just the on-screen big bad who was basically a front for the real big bad, who is Circe. But anyway, they are trying to escape. And there is a kerfuffle at the docks. Icarus is left behind. Ariadne ends up killing Minos to save him, but only Ariadne and the Minotaur get away on the ship, and Icarus ends up being a prisoner of Poseidon. Icarus has shown up in quite a few of the past books, right? You get the sense that he was really just like his father, did not approve of him at all. He thought he was too weak, he was worthless, all that type of stuff. Icarus has been portrayed as like a very like happy-go-lucky, like sleep around fuckboy, basically.
Yeah.
Um, of course, in Ariadne's book, you get a little bit more behind the curtain of that type of stuff. And at this point, Icarus is trying to come to terms with like, who is he now that his father is not there? How does he even feel about that? And what does he do now? Of course, he's trapped with Poseidon. Poseidon is he has been Poseidon. He's about 30-ish, yeah.
Mm.
He's been Poseidon for about half his life. He hates politics. He just wants to go to his shipyard, work the docks. We agreed that he's a little bit like autistic coded. He can get really overstimmed. And he just like he cannot stand the lying and like the half truth. He's just like, can someone just speak plainly to me? I'm literally begging you. Like, just say what you mean. This is stupid.
Yep.
Um, and he does have a sense of honor that the rest of the 13 don't. And so with Icarus and his care, some things happen. Icarus does get injured, and he takes that very personally. And of course, as he is helping Icarus heal from these injuries, they get a little closer. Icarus starts by being like, well, if I seduce him, then like he'll want to protect me, and this will be how I do it. But his attempts at seduction are like, bump chicka wow wow. Besides, like, what are you doing?
The very autistic of what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Clearly blatant flirting, just like I don't understand what's happening right now.
I don't get this. um so that dynamic is definitely the highlight of the book, and we'll talk about that. This one does definitely lean into, kink. Um And they're very excited in this one, which was not present in the last one. Elements of consent.
Yeah.
Everything in this relationship is consented to verbally. It's great. We love that.
Yep.
And then, of course, some things start to happen as Cersei approaches. The barrier has fallen, and so you would think things related to the plot would happen, and you'd be wrong. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. All right. So, as far as like an overall review goes, I think we're both in the camp of this is a very meh, like skippable book. I'm gonna say like 3.5 ish stars. Like it's not a bad book. It's not poorly written. Those some of those sex scenes were like very well done because it's Katie. Like it's none of her scenes are ever like weird and awkward. Like it's very well done. The like kink elements I really appreciated in here were once again full of consent. Very very kind of cute. Poseidon is like super innocent but also like super eager, submissive in this, which is great. She does the thing where the like big strong tough guy is the submissive and the like twinky little fuck boy is the dominant one. So like there is that element there. We did talk about too that this is her first only romance book because she's had like poly ones where the men have relationships with each other, but there's always a woman somewhere mixed in there. Anyway, yeah, the romance felt a little bit rushed and not romantic. Like it was a sexual relationship, but I didn't feel super that it paid off in the end. And the plot was barely there, if there at all, and it didn't need to be there. I don't know. It's just like kind of meh. Like I you could skip it. You could skip it. It's my overall review here.
So I agree with everything Michaela just said. That's basically my spoiler free review as well. I found the relationship very cute. I did not feel that it was very deep, right? Um, and so it makes like, the whole ending bit, which I'm not gonna spoil, but like you're just kind of like, okay, this is a lot for someone that you've known for like 2 days. Okay. Um, but like their interactions, like Michaela said, sex scenes or not, are just like they really are adorable. Especially because like Icarus is so used to like lying and like doing all this stuff, and he like tries it, and Poseidon's just like, I don't understand, I don't get it. And it makes for really cute and funny interactions. But yeah, in terms of I called this a filler book. In terms of moving the plot along, it kind of just like you think it's moving and you find out that it's very, very stationary. The only thing, and again, if you've seen any of these other reviews, you know this, that since like book three, I have been screaming about having Zeus and Hera's book. And they both individually in different parts feature quite heavily in this book. So I'm also calling this both a filler book and also just foreplay for the next book. Because it's just like clearly setting up more of their dynamic. And I think while Hera has shown up, because she's a sister to a bunch of the different characters, to a couple of the different main characters, and like you've maybe seen more of her in recent books. This one kind of reveals how much like Zeus knows about like what's going on.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that's different. I like maybe didn't expect that. And I'm trying to talk about this very generally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just need the next book. And I do feel like this is one of the, outside of the romance being cute, it's definitely one of the few that you could skip and probably not miss anything drastic for the next book. Which is just not, I feel like what you want to say for book 8 of 10.
Yeah. Because we don't have like huge complaints or like very specific things to say, we're gonna do this review sort of the way that we would normally and just like go relationship, plot, whatever, breakdown that way. So like we both said in our overall reviews, the relationship here was very cute, but maybe not super deep. Um, these characters interact with each other for over a couple of days, and I know that the point of a romance book is that there's always the happily ever after at the end. It just feels unearned. And I can't even say that it's just because of the time frame. Like maybe they just didn't interact enough outside of the sex scenes. Because a lot of the plot happens with Poseidon being pulled away from Icarus, with the exception of possibly the ending where they are together for a good amount of time. But there's enough like quote unquote action going on that they aren't having conversations. So while you get the feeling that they're able to like have a conversation with each other every once in a while, there's a kind of quick scene where Poseidon helps Icarus through a panic attack. There's like a couple of like very little things that show like a connection between them. It maybe didn't feel like there was like enough bedrock there to build this relationship on that had me believing that yes, these two people are endgame, which is what you want at the end of the day with a romance book, that like they were fated, or that like they are actually the two perfect people to be together, that they've been like having these struggles their whole lives and they're finally found someone that like fills the gaps, and like makes them feel good in themselves and brings out the best in them. And I feel like they could be that. I just didn't get to see enough of it. Like, and yeah, like they just needed more time to grow into that relationship, which they didn't have because of the way that the plot of this book worked.
And also remember that Icarus, particularly in the last book, but he has been around, like he attacks, like he attacks somebody
Yeah.
poorly at
Yeah.
the house party. That was like what, book 4. So he's been around and like you've been exposed to him. And so for me, that also made it feel like I had a really fleshed out vision of Icarus, and not just Icarus, but also like the amount of trauma Icarus carries and what that is. Whereas Poseidon really only became fully formed in this book, right?
Yeah.
And so we also did not get as much time to attach to him, to really understand him. And really his personality is that he loves his shipyard and his people and he hates the 13. And that was
Yeah.
like his entire personality. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. It's what it is. When it comes to the plot of this one felt more like overarching plot focused than between these two character plot focused. I mentioned to Gretchen that I wasn't sure if I was having the problem that I have with like a lot of romantasy books, which is Why Are You Kissing Right Now? Like there's a war going on and you're taking the time to kiss. It like kind of feels weird to me, especially when this is a supposed to be a straight romance book. Like there is the overarching plot, but I still feel like the romance should be the main focus of it, and I didn't really feel that with this one. I feel like the romance was just kind of there mixed in between a plot that then also didn't go anywhere. And I had the feeling that the plot wasn't going to go anywhere because we know there's two more books, right? Like you the way it's written is as if this is supposed to be leading up to the climax of the series, but then you know there's two more books, so it can't be. So then you're like, what is all of this leading up to? And we were correct in that it kind
Yeah.
of felt
And
useless.
what Michaela is saying is like the specific plot action of the book,
Yes, yeah.
right? There are ways that maybe this could have had a plot that actually did move the plot forward in like a more specific way, but the specific plot like culminating like ending event, right? That they're like leading us to the entire time. You're sitting there going, well, it's not going to work,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not
Yeah.
gonna, it can't, what you're claiming is about to happen cannot happen because then what is going to happen in the next 2 books?
Correct.
Um, and so there, yeah, I just, the way that it's not just that like this book was just kind of like killing time, but in the sense that it claimed to have a plot that would go somewhere that
Yeah.
you kind of knew the entire time was going to be anticlimactic, and that it was, and you were like, so why,
What was the point?
except to get up close to Zeus as foreplay for the next book. As someone who probably reads, like, more romantasy than Michaela does, like, I didn't have the same issue with, like, "Why are you kissing right now?" Because it's like it's that thing where it's like, "We might die on the morrow, and therefore we must make love tonight." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's, like, a fairly standard trope, right?" Like, that's, like, whatever. We ride at dawn, and therefore we have the night before we ride at dawn or whatever. But again, I other than that, like, everything Michaela said also I totally agree with. Um, and it is just very frustrating, I think, with this book to have had it not go anywhere and then just feel like, why did this exist? Um, because and Michaela will talk about this more, but unfortunately, we've kind of had that feeling for the last few books. The series may have gotten too long. But what I will say is that the hints that have now been dropped about something that's happening in Zeus and Hera's relationship for me has me very frightened because there is a possibility for that to turn on a trope I do not like. And I think could potentially torpedo what is otherwise an incredible enemies to lovers setup. Um, so all I have to say is I have been waiting, and the one thing that these mid-series books have done really well is set up the intense relationship between Zeus and Hera, and I am gonna have opinions about the next book, okay? Especially if my worries come true, and, you won't have to even watch the recording of the video, you will have heard me screaming
Just somewhere out in the ether, Gretchen
it.
screaming. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about what I have been feeling about the last several books, like, really culminated in this one, which is that those first, like, 3 books were so strong, like, really strong, like, 5-star, 4-star, 4.5-star, like really good romance books. And then it seems like every subsequent book we're kind of like, it was all right, but, like, our enthusiasm for what's going on has just deteriorated. Um, and it may be because of the popularity of Neon Gods that, wanting to capitalize on that, they extended the series to the point that it's has all of this filler, right? Where it each book itself doesn't feel like its own book anymore. It doesn't feel satisfying to read on its own anymore. And for some of these characters, you aren't particularly attached to them or what's going on to them, really, to care all that much about their particular story either. Um, and that kind of is a detriment to the series as a whole. I feel like these last 2 books will hopefully, fingers crossed that nothing goes wrong, are going to be very, very strong because they're characters and relationships that we very much care about and have since the beginning. But we had to go through this weird, really long interlude that is important that you have to read because the overarching plot doesn't make sense without reading them, of a bunch of, like, kind of meh, stumbling, not fully heart into them relationships. So it could have been a, like, publisher trying to capitalize on the trend thing. It could have been a, like, trying to fit in as many Greek myths as she could type thing. It could have been, like, so many things that led us to this point, but it just, like, sort of leaves a damper on the series as a whole, especially because they were back to back to back to back of, like, so many things where we were just kind of like, I wanted more and I didn't get that out of these. So, not to say that the series isn't good overall, because we do still really stand by those first couple books. And again, you can't really read the last 2 books in the series without reading these other books. But yeah, at this point, like, the series went from being like an all-time favorite series to just kind of being like an okay series, even among Katie's books. Like, there are other series of hers that I would recommend more so.
I mean, I think for anyone trying to do 10 books is a really tall order.
Yeah.
Um, Especially when you are trying to do 10 books in a series where they're not companions either, where it's like trying to hold an overarching plot while also getting you invested in different characters. And what this book did really well was setting us up with some of these characters that we really did care about, like Zeus and Hera. We know that Hermes is going to be the final book, and she has absolutely been like one of the most interesting characters of the entire series. And I don't know that Katie has revealed who the love interests are in that book, but we have a decently educated guess. We do know that it is going to be three women, so Hermes and two other people. Um, so you know, that is like the type of power that this series has to have set up over this, like the different like ways that different characters view some of these people and their interactions and how they progress throughout the series. But yeah, the best we can say, I think, is that after Ariadne and the Minotaur's book, we were scared because that book was so un-Katie in so many different ways. So at the very least, this book brings it back up to a regular, like it's not great, but the characters have a cute dynamic. There's a lot of consent involved. Um, and even if it did feel rushed, it's not like with Ariadne and the Minotaur where I was like, don't stay together. It's
Yes.
bad. Don't
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
Like I hope that Poseidon and Icarus can figure it out. I'm rooting for kids.
There you have it. That's that's Sweet Obsession. It was. We read it. It existed. There was some like cute things, but not our favorite, and you could possibly skip it if you aren't sure about it, especially coming off of the back of the last book. If you have just been like Gretchen holding out for Zeus and Hera, you probably can just hold out for Zeus and Hera later this year. I don't know. It's fine.
So, just so you all know, we filmed this video early in advance when we both had the arc and we both had time. So, this is an arc review. Thank you to the publisher and Edelweiss for our advance review copies. But because this is early and Tender Cruelty, which is Zeus and Hera's book, is not coming out until December of this year, please understand that at the time of filming, I have a whole other year, essentially, a little less than a year to wait. And I need it. I need it, guys. And I need it to be good, or I will flip a table or something. I probably am not strong enough to flip my table, but I would try. I would try to flip my table.
Yeah.
So because this is a early arc review, we have no idea what will be coming up on our own channel after this video actually gets posted. Because we are trying to do our level best to do some arc reviews early and get them out to you on time. As you guys may or may not know, Michaela and I do a buddy reading challenge every year, and our goal, one of them, is to read an arc on time. And we had talked about in our video announcing those challenges, which we can link up above if you missed it, that we weren't sure how that was going to work because Katie was not releasing this book in January. But we backdoored it because we still read it at the beginning of the year. So proud of us for doing that. We can link that up above. And hopefully we'll have some other arc reviews coming to you guys soon, plus reading roundtables, and then whatever floats our boat. You know, you probably know more than we do at this point because this was filmed a while ago.
Anyway, well, talk to you guys soon.
Bye.